creeps! Andy here, and today I wanted to talk about the best horror books that I have read so far this year. To be clear, these are not books that came out in 2021. These are just the best books that I've read up until this point. Last year I did a big video like this at the end of the year for last year's books, and I think I will do that again in December. But I wanted to give you a few creepy books that I've read this year that were my all-time favorite, just in case you guys are looking for something creepy to read during October/Halloween. So I will be giving you my top 5 books that I have read so far, and I'm really excited. And then if you guys want to hear at the end of the year every horror book that was my favorite that I read this year, then you can check back in December and I will have that up for you. But let's just jump in and get into it. I'm very excited because today it feels like the first actual day of fall. It's 75 degrees outside. I got to see the sunlight and walk my dogs during the day. I've been walking my dogs at midnight because it's been 100 degrees outside up until this point. So I'm just very happy, very thankful. This is gonna be a great weekend. It's gonna rain. I'm gonna see the rain. I'm just so excited. So sorry, let's just get into it. Should I do my favorite first or my favorite last? Keep you waiting in anticipation. I'll do my favorite book last. That book was awesome. Okay, so the first book that I wanted to talk about was The Ruins by Scott Smith. This of course is a movie that probably a lot of you guys have seen, but I'm telling you, this book, oh, my shoulder just cracked. I'm an old lady. But I'm telling you, this book is just fantastic. It is so good. So I read this year. I was so blown away by it. This has become one of my favorite horror books I think that I've ever read. It really is that good, at least in my opinion. This one I paid $2 for at my local used bookstore, and I just loved every word in this novel. And it's really unfortunate that Scott Smith hasn't released any other horror type books because this one is just so fantastic. And by the way, I have a movie verse book on this that I will leave linked down below. In case you guys have seen the movie but haven't read the book, I kind of compare and contrast both of them. So I'll leave that down below if you're interested in that. But anyways, it's about a group of students who go to Mexico for their big vacation before they go off to college and live their own lives. And so they're really looking for adventure. One of the people that they meet in Mexico has a brother who has gone to investigate some ruins, and they all agree to go along with him and try to find them. So they find the ruins, and they are surprised to find that once they step on them, that they are not allowed to leave by a group of local people who kind of protect the location and the ruins and don't let anybody leave once they've come. And then throughout the story, you're just kind of stuck with these people. They have limited food, limited supplies. They don't know how they're gonna ever be able to leave, and they have to make really crazy, rash decisions. And it's just a wild ride. For me, I really like this book because I felt like I was there with them. I felt like I was sitting there thinking, what would I do in this situation? How would I go about this? Would I agree with this guy? Would I not agree with this guy? It's just really a really well-written, incredible adventure type story, but I promise there's a lot of horror in here. This specific quote I wanted to read, I read this in my last video, but I have to read it again because it's so good. So they're talking about burning flesh. I'm not going to give too much away, but just know that we're talking about burning flesh. It says, sorry, the light is so bright, now I just see a big circle. It says, Eric could hear the flesh burning, a spitting, snapping sound. He could smell it too, and was appalled to feel his stomach stirring in response. Not in nausea either, but shockingly in hunger. Come on! That is just a fantastic line. So this book really, really impressed me, and I absolutely loved this. Let me know if you guys have read it and how you feel about this, and if you haven't, are you interested? Will you pick it up? The next book that I read is definitely a controversial one. This one is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. I have a book verse movie on this. I will leave that linked down below in case you guys are interested in that. A lot of people do not like this book. And to be honest, I read this once when I was younger, and I did not like it the way that I liked it this time reading it. I think what changed was that I went into it knowing that it wasn't just a horror book from beginning to end, and I went into it knowing that there were going to be a lot of slow things, and I really stopped to take a step back and look at it from a different perspective and really just analyze everything that happens in the book. It really is a fantastic novel. I mean, it really is extremely well written. I'm not gonna lie, there are 10 pages of just describing a suit. There are a lot of emphasis on materialistic possessions, which is very boring for someone like me who could care less about designer things. But I really think that it is an important novel. I really love the ambiguity of the ending of Patrick Bateman. I mean, I don't think I need to go into too big of detail. Everyone knows the story of American Psycho, but I really was surprised at how much I loved this book going into it again this year, and this has quickly become one of my favorite horror novels. In fact, if I'm honest with you, I got this because many years ago, probably like a decade ago, my brother bought this, read it, and he said, hey, do you want to read American Psycho? I just finished it. And I said, sure. And he's like, keep it, I will never read this again. So I actually got this from my brother because he did not, it's not that he didn't like it, he just could not deal with like the descriptions of materialistic things and things like that. I don't know, I found a different way to really approach this story and find a way to love it this year. So hopefully there are some people out there that are thinking they might give this guy another try. Maybe. I know a lot of people aren't in love with the story, but I really do love this one. Alright, next up, I have videos about a lot of these, but I know not everybody watches every video that I make, so I thought that I would bring these up too, because these books just really did get to me this year. The next book is Joyce Carol Oates' Zombie. I did an entire video on this one. I will leave that linked down below too. It's about a man named Quentin. You're in his perspective, so you don't get anyone else's perspective in the novel. You're just kind of stuck with his viewpoint. But even through his viewpoint, you see that he's just not quite right. He says and does things that just make people uncomfortable. He is a very sick individual. He went to jail for something very inappropriate. He gets out and he ends up stalking these people because he wants to make a zombie for himself. Basically, his idea is that he wants to lobotomize a man to be his basically love slave, but not to be a human and have like human interactions and human feelings, probably because he seems quite incapable of them, and the feelings that he does possess, things like obsession and lust, are just so not good. It's just not good. So this book really blew me away. It is so disturbing. I think there's a lot to pick apart in this too, even with the reason he makes zombies and his sexuality and his relationship with his father. It is a really interesting book to analyze on just a psychological level, but very disturbing. And it's written kind of in like this manifesto journal type way, so it feels like you're reading the journal of a serial killer. It's really disturbing. Highly recommend this book if you guys are interested. I feel like this one is one that every horror lover will pick up and kind of enjoy. It's not hard to get through or anything like that. It's not like American Psycho. It very much so is just disturbing beginning to end. So highly suggest that. The next one, oh, I love this book so much. This is called Reviver. It is by Seth Patrick, and it says death won't silence them. This book was so fantastic. I got this for $3 at my used bookstore. I had never heard of the writer, I had never heard of this title before, and it just kind of stood out to me as I was walking to check out, and I was like, I'll give it a try. And when you do that at a bookstore, you know it is hit or miss. Sometimes you find decent books and sometimes they're not so good. This book is fantastic. It is so fun. It's about this man who works as a reviver, so his ability allows him to bring back people from the dead. He works in forensics so that they can tell him who murdered them, and then that is taped and used in court to get a guilty verdict of the murderer. Revivers are also people, you can hire them privately to like revive someone who has passed away, to say goodbye to them and things like that. It's just such a cool, unique concept. But when this specific, I think his name's Jonah, when this specific reviver goes to work at this one, I can't see because the light is just burning my retinas, but I think his name is Jonah, and when he goes to work on one specific project of somebody who has been murdered, something very odd happens, and it isn't just the girl that comes through, it's something far more sinister. So then Jonah sets off on this entire journey trying to figure out like what's going on. It's actually a trilogy, I believe, or at least there's a second one to it, but it's like a series, and so I want to read the rest of them so badly. I picked this up at the used bookstore, but I will be buying the other ones because the writing is fun, the story is fun, there's no downtime. Like, it really is a great fun book. If you want something really unique, highly suggest picking up this guy. And then the last best book that I have read so far this year has been Monsters in Our Midst, and this is actually a anthology, and it was edited by Robert Bloch, who is the writer of Psycho, and it just has 17 brilliantly unique new versions of madness, and it absolutely is. It's pretty hard for me to read something and get creeped out by it, truly creeped out, and there were a few stories in here that really, really creeped me out. I mean, you get a wide variety over the stories, but all of them are about people. Well, I'll just read you the beginning. It says, much of the horror published today deals with supernatural forces, but nothing is more terrifying than the ability of humans to commit unspeakable acts that violate their fellow humans. True crime books chronicle the exploits of serial killers and others whose crimes are equally heinous, but no fact or fiction can prepare you for this collection. Assembled by Robert Bloch. And then it has people like Ray Bradbury, Ramsey Campbell, then a lot of people that I didn't know either. So it's not just an anthology that I feel like I have. It really is fantastic. So all of the narrators are the bad people. It's just really interesting to be in that position, to be the reader, but in kind of the driver's seat of the madman. So I really, really loved this. I really want to do an entire video on just disturbing short stories. 2 of them will have come from this book when I do that video, because wow, this book just really blew me away. I had so much fun reading these stories, and I loved this anthology. This was $3 at my local bookstore. So this is kind of who I think would like each book. I kind of think that everybody would enjoy Zombie. Most people that I've talked to have loved this book as well, so I think most anybody would enjoy The Ruins. American Psycho, I would say settle in for a slow ride. If you want something more to analyze and kind of ponder while reading, then pick this one up. But if you just want blood and guts, maybe skip out on this one. Reviver, this one's like action, adventure, thriller, horror, romance, everything rolled into one. So if you like stories that kind of go in a lot of different directions, it's not blood and guts the entire time, but the story's unique enough, I think, to keep you intrigued. But if you want something just different that you probably have never read anything like it, I would pick up this guy. And then Monsters in Our Midst, I think everybody would like this one. I think there's something in here for everyone. So I hope this video has helped you kind of find a few books to add to your reading list this month, and I will see you tomorrow with another horror video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye guys!